Thank you. Just two quick ones. First, on North Korea, the last one was in 2010. Obviously, North Korea has made a lot of strides in its nuclear program, and you've listed 11 fielded or in development nuclear delivery systems from North Korea. What in this review is kind of specifically tailored to North Korea or focused on the North Korean threat? And I know you mentioned briefing Russia on this. Was China also briefed on this review?
With respect to North Korea, the capabilities in the nuclear triad that exist today, as well as the recapitalization that's discussed in the report and some of these supplementary capabilities, all of those things in various circumstances would have applicability in the type of hypothetical scenarios that we worry about with North Korea. Unfortunately, some of our concerns that we used to have a few years ago have become, quite frankly, not so hypothetical anymore in terms of the threat that we face. And so I think whether it's with North Korea and demonstrating that we have a range of options, that we have flexible options, that these are credible and can be employed when necessary, I think is very important to reinforcing deterrence. Certainly wouldn't want that regime or others to wrongly conclude that there's a lack of resolve on our part should they threaten the use of nuclear weapons or use nuclear weapons against the United States. So I think in this circumstance, having this more flexible set of capabilities that we can tailor to the circumstances, whether it be with North Korea or another, to reinforce that deterrence. And this is a much more challenging activity than 20 years ago or more. We've really got to watch out for that. And it's not just with North Korea. Others are similarly concerning to us.
And we did brief China.
Oh, yes.
No, that's
Go
fine.
ahead and take
No,
that.
we did brief China.
Today?
No, and with China, I would say we've long sought to have dialogue with China specifically to discuss and enhance our understanding of nuclear weapon issues to help manage the risk of miscalculation, misperceptions. So, yep, we briefed them this morning.
Yeah. Thank you very much. On North Korean nuclear issues, recently North Korean Kim Jong-un said that the nuclear button is on his table toward the United States. What is the United States doing to prevent North Korea's nuclear attack? And what is the U.S. final destination of on this?
Well, certainly the Nuclear Posture Review talks about one of its aims, deterring a North Korean nuclear attack. And on that, we're very explicit that clearly these capabilities are intended to deter North Korea from a nuclear attack in the United States or our allies. Another element of our deterrent posture with North Korea is the ballistic missile defense system that the United States employs. One of the things that it does is it reduces the likelihood that North Korea would contemplate or use a ballistic missile to attack the United States, knowing that we have a capability to defeat that. And if North Korea would, in a hypothetical, launch a ballistic missile tipped with a nuclear weapon at the United States that we intercepted, it's not the sort of thing that we would say, oh, well, that's the end of the story. Let's go back to the way things were before. That kind of attack on the United States or our allies that we defeated is something we would regard extremely seriously for obvious reasons. And so ballistic missile defenses that are credible and effective are very important as part of our deterrent equation, both for the United States as well as for our friends and allies around the world. And that's why you've seen us over the years in the United States Defense Department not only deploy some of these capabilities on the home territory of our allies where they host them, but also have our forces that are deployed there increasingly have those capabilities, because the connection between our allies' security in an attack with shorter range missiles and that against the United States homeland are increasingly being driven together. And we have to have an integrated set of capabilities, which is what we're pursuing, and we've requested money from the Congress both last year. You will see that again in our budget proposal this year to the Congress for substantial funds for a ballistic missile defense system. Our nuclear capabilities are also very important in that deterrence equation. How we message, how we talk about the circumstances is also part of our messaging to North Korea. And you'll see some passages of the NPR speak directly to North Korea about our thinking in that regard.
J.J. Green over there. Go next then to Lou Martinez, ABC News.
Hi. President Trump, during the campaign trail, made a promise to increase and strengthen the U.S. nuclear arsenal. Does this NPR, is that a result of that influence? Did that come into play at all? And secondly, there's also been some immediate criticism from the Hill already that this new low-yield capability is an unnecessary capability. What is your response to that? And thirdly, my apologies on this, the 2010 NPR eliminated the already existing sub-launched cruise missile capability. If that had been allowed to continue, would that have not necessitated the current request in the NPR?
I think, first of all, the nuclear posture review was something that the President instructed us at the Defense Department, the Energy Department, State Department, and others to construct. And so certainly, at its most basic level, it's a response to instruction from the President that we do this type of review. And so it clearly reflects the priorities of his administration that have come forward. And we were given certain criteria under which to look. I do think, though, the review and its adjustments in how we approach nuclear weapons and the delivery systems is really driven by the threat environment, which continues to evolve in very concerning ways. You mentioned the congressional reaction. I think one of the things that I've heard when I've been up with senators and congressmen is increasing concern across the political spectrum about what's going on in that environment, about the change in the security threats facing the United States and our allies. A lot of concern about what the direction in Russia and the type of capabilities and doctrine that the Russian government is pursuing, and indeed some of its behavior, as you know, against its near abroad and against other countries. Certainly China is also an area that's, you mentioned the Congress is showing a lot of concern there about its increasing capabilities, and North Korea. So I think that security environment is really what's informing and driving some of the changes here, again, for a more flexible set of capabilities, for tailored deterrence so that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to every circumstance into how we're going to deter adversaries and assure allies. Your other question about low-yield nuclear weapons, again, low-yield nuclear weapons have been in the U.S. arsenal for decades, and the obvious point behind that is in both Republican and Democratic administrations they've been present. And what is contemplated here for the recapitalization of the nuclear triad, I would point out many of those programs were begun in the request to the Congress in the last administration. And so I do think there is a bipartisanship around the need for a strong, effective nuclear triad. And I'm optimistic that the Congress will again support the kind of budget request that the President will come forward with shortly in accordance with his statements that he made before about wanting a robust defense budget for the United States. I guess the last question you had related to the submarine launch cruise missile. Compliment you on the proliferation of questions there. With the submarine launch cruise missile, again, it's a capability the United States possessed for decades after its introduction before. That system was later in its service life. I won't speak for the previous administration in terms of their decision-making, but I will speak for what the Nuclear Posture Review calls for, which is studying the appropriate way to move forward for a reintroduction of a submarine-launched cruise missile with the appropriate attributes that we can have flexible, credible, low-yield nuclear options in order to reinforce this idea of tailored deterrence.
Colin Clark, Breaking Defense. It's been a long time since the senior leadership of the United States has paid such close attention to nuclear matters in depth. Have you, Ms. Rudd, or others taken personal part in war games to improve your understanding of the decision-making matrices, the command and control intricacies, or do you plan to soon?
The type of planning that you're referring to, that I should back up and say, planning for various contingencies, performing exercises, and thought explorations about various circumstances of the world is one of the tools we routinely use at the Defense Department in a whole range of circumstances. Those are not unique to the nuclear weapons enterprise. Certainly in the nuclear weapons enterprise, the stakes are dramatically higher. But yes, that is the kind of discussion, the type of planning we do. And it's not the only thing, but it's one of the tools that we use. And I have personally participated in that type of planning and exercises. And that's the way. I would note I served in the Pentagon before in the Defense Department. I similarly participated in planning and exercises at that time. So it's not a new innovation of the present administration.
But do you see that the increased depth of interest in nuclear issues has elevated your participation to any degree, or what?
I think that the security environment in the world has elevated the level of attention to this area, whether it's in the Defense Department, the Energy Department, State Department. I won't speak for my colleagues, but in the Congress as well. Certainly the various organs of the United States government, and I think there's no question people are more concerned about this. And how can you not be? Kim Jong-un brings it to you in front of your radar screen in the morning many times based on what he's saying or doing.
Can I add to that?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so the national level, I want to talk about the national level interest in the fact that this is a policy that's, was created by the interagency, reviewed and approved by the President of the United States, reasserting our commitment to maintaining and securing, modernizing our nuclear stockpile and our infrastructure. So that, to me, is very good news for the country, for the people of the United States, for the people I represent here today, given that we have people that have devoted their adult lives to this endeavor. They believe in it. I really appreciated the Deputy Secretary of Defense calling out the men and women that work in this area. I'll do the same for ours that are not in uniform, but have strong beliefs that what they do every day is strengthening national security. So to have the national level support for that, I think is very good, and will definitely help us moving forward with all the work that we have going on and will continue to do. So just wanted to add that.
No, thanks. I agree. From a security perspective, from the diplomatic perspective, the worsening security situation is something that we certainly take note of at the State Department. And as I mentioned, our allies and partners are aware of it and also see the increased danger.
And I apologize with that. We're out of time. I know there's a number of you we weren't able to get to. We did promise to let these three get out of here on time. We've gone over an hour. But thank you very much, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And if you have follow-ups, I know Tom Crossan here. He is eager to answer all your unanswered questions, so find him. Thanks.
Defense Information Systems Agency. This is the computing part of the military. And here we have programmers, system analysts, endpoint security summit that focuses on enterprise modernization. Cloud Symposium, that's all those server farms. Their involvement with small businesses that do computing. Enterprise email, careers, antivirus. Here's their website on Google, Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA.mil. And here is an announcement they made. I get these emails sent to my inbox, and anybody can do it. A hosted endpoint security summit took place at the agency's Fort Meade headquarters. That would be where NSA is, in Fort Meade, bringing together more than 250 Department of Defense endpoint security subject matter experts. Now that's code word for people with security clearances who know a lot about their particular special access program and unacknowledged special access program. This is 250 of these guys. This is like a massive get-together. Systems administrators, analysts, and users to discuss modernization efforts. 3-day event. This thing went on and on and on, giving endpoint practitioners and, here's that magic word again, subject matter experts. When I sued the president and went to the Supreme Court, that's one of the things that the district court said, is that he is not a subject matter expert with torture. The opportunity to hear from DISA, the DoD Chief Information Officer, U.S. Cyber Command, that's part of NSA, and Joint Force Headquarters, DoD Information Network, about policy and operational strategies that will drive significant change in 2019 and beyond. Participants use the summit as an opportunity to exchange information about their efforts and endpoint approaches, present requirements, discuss research, testing, and planning efforts. That's testing on human beings, the citizens of America and around the world, using electromagnetic frequencies and directed energy weapons. Testing on people, that's a violation of international treaties. And explore the way ahead for an enterprise endpoint security solution. They want a big, massive, complex, fascist, totalitarian effort by the DoD to foist it upon innocent citizens and innocent people around the world that they're torturing right now and assassinating by zapping them with these invisible rays. We've done a lot of work at the integrated product team level, said Diane Fan, DISA's Endpoint Security Program Manager and Summit host. This was a chance to get everyone's input and make sure that as a community we're moving forward. Navy Rear Admiral Kathleen Creighton, Deputy Commander of Joint Force Headquarters, DoD, IN, highlighted the timeliness of the head event in her opening remarks. It is a component command of Cybercom. That means that the NSA and Cybercom are housed in the same Fort Meade buildings, and I say plural because there's many buildings holding them now, and it's a component command of them. And its mission is global DoD IN operations and defensive cyber operations, internal defensive measures. This is total information awareness on steroids. This is the Nazi regime on steroids. The Nazis didn't lose, they moved to America. Endpoint security is a very important topic right now. At the senior levels, we recognize the value of a modernized enterprise solution, said Creighton, Kathleen Creighton, Navy Rear Admiral. There is an urgency to secure our networks effectively in a way that leverages efficiencies. She continued, we have to go beyond, we have to do it our way. We have to get to a common way, a common set of standards so that we can secure the entirety of the DoD IN. While definitions vary, endpoint security typically refers to the measures or actions taken to address risks that promote devices that remote devices such as laptops or other wireless and mobile devices present when connecting to an enterprise or shared network. This is the Internet of Things has hit the Department of Defense. DoD endpoint security solutions involve an integrated set of capabilities that work together to detect, deter, protect, and report on cyber threats across DoD networks. Efforts to modernize endpoint security aim to achieve a more standardized, interoperable, and secure set of capabilities that strengthen integrated threat analysis. Well, they say other countries are a threat to us, but in reality, that's code word for we're attacking them with invisible rays. So we're the threat to them, not they the threat to us. Defensive actions and command and controls across the DoDIN from boundary to endpoints. Creighton challenged the audience to use the summit to take a holistic view of the DoD's Chief Information Officer's strategy, policy, direction, combatant command operational requirements, and service and agency pilot efforts in progress. You're going to need to figure out how all of these things interconnect and how they relate to your organization. Well, let me give you a clue. The Internet of Things is more than laptops and cell phones. It's people. They literally are controlling people and turning them into the Internet of Things. The first day of the summit focused on policy and enterprise level testing and developing efforts, including an update on DoD Cybersecurity Architecture Review, which has conducted a greenfield analysis of threat coverage to inform the future of endpoint security architectures, capabilities, and solutions. We have to start moving faster, said Carmen Santos Logan of the Office of the DoD's Chief Information Officer. We haven't modernized our end-user security platform. Now we have to move out and figure out where we're going, she said. The next 2 days provided opportunities for the audience to hear about the pilots and endpoint security efforts moving forward in the military services, combatant commands, and agencies. We received great response from the components that participated, said Melissa Simpson, Deputy Chief of the Joint Forces Headquarters DoDIN Cyber Fusion Operations Team. This is just a part of the NSA and the Cyber Command. This forum has provided us an opportunity to build relationships and synergize with the DoD components in order to truly evolve endpoint security. Collaboration between DoD, CIO, Cybercom, Joint Force Headquarters DoDIN, and Defense Information Systems Agency is vital to the development of the endpoint security strategy and enterprise capability. Moving forward, we plan to continue this communication and strategy development within the weekly DoD Endpoint Security Operational Working Group. So out of this summit, they've created a working group that's going to communicate with everyone. And here it is, 250 security experts, systems administrators, and analysts. Defense contractor Lockheed Martin implicated in covert microwave weaponry assaults on targeted individuals. Now these are totally innocent people that they can't round up and throw in jail, so they zap them to death. What's that all about? That is, so many laws are being broken. It's outrageous. They call them targeted individuals or TIs, but they're basically using people as guinea pigs and lab rats and zapping them across the country. And a lot of these people don't realize they're being zapped. About 20, 30, 50, 80,000 probably realize they're being zapped. But the rest of the people don't understand that their physical ills are being caused by the Department of Defense using them for experiments. That's why you see all these ads on TV for all these medicines. That not only that, they're selling people drugs to cure something that they themselves are doing. See, you can get the DISA emails right there to your inbox. Endpoint Security Summit increases mission partner engagement forum frequencies, grants provisional authorization at data impact level 5 to cloud services. Yeah, it's terrible. Our military is up to no good. We bomb other countries and then we zap our citizenry.